This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Tasty libations, films and
fermentation with Leo, Devman, and Mike.
Mike.
Halloween.
When I was in grade school, I had a music teacher who was insistent upon playing seasonal music and having kids sing it. And I do remember there was a song called "Have You Seen the Ghost of John?" Right? And it's a horrible song. It's a spooky "Have you seen the ghost of John? Long white bones with the skin all gone." It's like, oh my God.
I'm gonna have to find that. I'll put it. I'll tag it on the end as like the final theme. Hey everybody, welcome to Films and Fermentation. This is episode 170. 170 episodes in. Tonight's episode is titled "No Tricks, Just Flicks." We're looking at our Halloween go-to films this evening. Again, we are Films and Fermentation, a movie and alcohol podcast. According to Good Pods, we are the number one pop culture podcast of all time, the number one beer podcast of all time, the number one TV and film podcast, the number one indie beer podcast, and the number one TV and film indie podcast. So that is 5 more reasons to listen to Films and Fermentation.
We're number one. We're number
one on some arbitrary list. On an arbitrary list.
On several arbitrary lists.
Several arbitrary lists. We have 945 5-star reviews on Good Pods.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many
if only we
yours?
get some more fucking downloads.
How many of those are yours, Lee?
Like 4.
170.
Yeah. I don't have that many email accounts. So
no, one for every episode.
So in case you're wondering, I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
We are 3 friends who like to talk shit about movies while getting shit-faced. In this episode, we are diving into our go-to Halloween films, the ones that haunt our watch lists every year, even if they aren't about pumpkins or trick-or-treaters. From creepy classics to freaky favorites, these are the films that get us in the spirit of the season. So grab a witch's brew, settle in, and join us as we unwrap our favorite cinematic treats. No costumes required. Let's just hope the only thing that jumps out at you is a good time. I just got a text message from my wife. Hold on. Okay, never mind. Nothing important. It was just a... She's spamming everybody, so you might get a text from her later. Don't forget to drop us an email, filmsandfermentation@gmail.com, or visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all of our social media podcast links. Become part of the Films and Fermentation family by supporting us on Patreon or buying our merchandise at teespring.com. You can also text us at 904-867-4466. That is the Films and Fermentation text line, 904-867-4466. And please, everybody, don't forget to continue to like, subscribe, review, and most importantly, download our episodes. Help us get our, keep our statistics up and get us, get our metric going a little bit there. We would really like some more downloads. So please and thank you. We are 2 out of 3 drinking tonight, I believe. Correct?
Yes, it screams in sobriety tonight, guys.
Mike is unfortunately sober this week because he is on call.
Yes.
So what is it this evening, Mike? Water, tea, Mountain Dew,
pumpkin milkshake.
Hey, well, that's a mixed drink.
Yeah.
Ice cream and milk, pumpkin flavor. It's better than a glass of water like I had to have a couple weeks ago.
True enough.
Kevin, you look like you have something strong there, my friend.
I do. Gentlemen, I am drinking a glass of Southern Tier pumpkin whiskey, which you had over here not long ago. This is 70 proof, 35% alcohol by volume. It's got a very strong, creamy. It's got a fuller taste than it looks. It looks like it would be thin and weak, and it's not. It's got a nice, spicy taste with it tastes a lot.
It
very
is
creamy.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a phenomenal drink. I really, really like that. Like we actually we cleaned it out of our fridge the other day. We found a bottle and we were like, nice. So we have that too. But I was going to actually drink that tonight myself.
Ah.
And then I decided, because my good friend Kevin brought me a case of Sam Adams Oktoberfest for my birthday, and not just any case, the 28 bottle case instead of the 24.
Mm-hmm.
So I have enough to keep me busy for a little while. So I am drinking Sam Adams Oktoberfest this evening.
Nice.
5.3% alcohol by volume. Probably top 5 of my favorite Oktoberfest beers. Probably top 3. All right. Mike, anything special happened this week?
This week in film history, 1941, Walt Disney's animated film Dumbo is released.
Dumbo. We actually talked about that a little bit last week because we were talking about like some Tim Burton films and or something. Uh-oh.
Oh, Kevin just walked.
Kevin just did a disappearing act for Halloween.
Yeah, apparently he doesn't like Dumbo.
I don't know, man. Yeah, what's he get against that little elephant? He's so cute. Oh, let's
Oh,
continue and we'll see what happens when he comes back.
1964 film version of My Fair Lady, directed by George Couture and starring Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn, premieres in New York. Academy Award Best Picture, 1965.
And Best Actor for Rex Harrison. And you almost said My Favorite Lady, but it's My Fair Lady. But that's okay because Audrey Hepburn is my favorite lady.
Yes.
I like this movie. Yeah, I love this movie. I love Audrey Hepburn. So the next fact is
next one.
Awesome fact. Awesome.
I know it is. It's your favorite director ever.
Yes.
1978 Halloween, directed by John Carpenter, starring Donald Pleasance and Jamie Lee Curtis. And her film debut is released.
Yeah, so Halloween is actually one of the movies I'll be talking about later. It's John Carpenter. It's John Carpenter's second or third film, I want to say. I think it was his third film. His most successful film at that time. Yeah, it's the movie that made Jamie Lee Curtis the new final girl, screen queen, whatever you want to call her. Yep. I love John Carpenter. I've talked about it before. I talk about it all the time. I was just on the Back to the Blockbuster podcast recently to talk about John Carpenter's The Fog. And our good friend Cthulhu Jack did a video today about John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness, which is another one of my favorite films. And I was messaging him about it and thanking him for covering some John Carpenter films because my favorite director, as I said, or one of my favorite directors. So yeah, I really enjoy this fact right here. What's the next one you got there, sir?
1984, The Terminator, directed by James Cameron, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, and Michael Biehn, is released in the U.S.
And people everywhere decided to start trying to imitate Arnold Schwarzenegger after this. Yes. I'll be back. Oh, I just thought of something else. There was a cool fact I learned today. Going back to the previous fact about Halloween, the actor who played Mike Myers in the original Halloween film is also the director of one of our favorite 80s films, The Last Starfighter. And I just found that out the other night because the other night I was saying, I should watch some of the movies on my Halloween list because, I need to get caught up for the show. But instead, I watched The Last Starfighter.
I bet she wasn't wearing a Captain Kirk mask, though.
No, he was not wearing a Captain Kirk. I don't know, unless that's how his directing style, gets people to do what he wants on set. I don't know. Number or letter E you got there. What's next?
And 2012, Skyfall, the 23rd James Bond film directed by Sam Mendes and starring Daniel Craig and Javier Bardem, premieres in London.
Yeah, that's one. I actually haven't seen the whole film, but I've seen some of the. Yeah,
Skyfall is really good.
I know, but I've seen some of like the creepier scenes with Javier Bardem when he's like shows him, what the radiation did to his face and all that stuff. Yeah. Interesting. Like Javier Bardem's really good at playing villains.
He is.
Next one's not a great fact, but I guess we'll talk about it.
2013, Thor: The Dark World, directed by Alan Taylor, starring Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman, premieres in London.
People went to the theater really excited to see a new Thor film and walked out of the theater going, I'm going to pause
Chris,
it. What is your last fact there, Mike?
2018, Freddie Mercury biofilm Bohemian Rhapsody, directed by Bryan Singer, starring Rami Malek. Best Actor Academy Award 2019, premieres in London.
I liked him in this film. I thought he played a really good Freddie Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
I still think Taron Egerton in Rocket Man did a better performance as Elton John.
And he did his own singing.
And he did his own singing. And I think I still consider it robbery that he wasn't even nominated.
Mm.
I mean, I see giving it to Rami Malek. I thought he did an excellent job as Freddie Mercury, like imitating him, but like the singing wasn't all his. And
he should have been nominated, but the movie was a different kind of biopic, Like it almost seemed theatrical the way they went from like one era to the next era. It was almost like a scene change, a stage change.
You're talking about Rocket Man?
I'm talking about Rocket Man, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rocket Man, because I mean, unfortunately, Freddie Mercury passed, so he didn't really have a say in the film about his life. But Rocket Man, Elton John was a producer on the film as well, so he had a lot to say about how he wanted it filmed, and he wanted it to be that sort of dreamlike, theatrical, like stage play thing, like you were talking about.
And I think, it worked. I enjoyed the movie, but it was. I think that's just.
Yeah, I liked it because it wasn't like a typical biopic. Like the Bohemian Rhapsody is a good film, and Rami Malek's excellent in it, but it felt like just your typical biography, nothing super special.
I don't because I'm getting the crackling too every time Leo talks.
Okay, I was checking.
Do you have any beer? Let's try beer craft destination for this evening, Mike. I'm getting a little flustered here.
I must try beer. Oregon's original amber, Full Sail Brewing Company, Hood River, Oregon. Full Sails has been around a while, and they've brewed different brands, but thankfully they've kept some of their original legacy brews going, and this is one of them. Deep reddish brown in color, their 6% alcohol by volume amber uses beautifully fresh old school hops, Mount Hood and Cascade. Way back in 1989, when Full Sail started brewing it, craft beers hadn't really blown up like it has today. So an amber ale was a maverick concept in the beer world. Malty, lightly sweet with a medium body and toasty chocolate flavors. It drinks as smooth and fresh today as it did back in the day. Treat yourself to a bit of history. There you go, boys.
All right. Kevin's beer news segment tonight. We're not going to call it beer news is good news. We're going to call it beer news is interesting.
Beer news is news.
It's news. Hold on.
Beer is good. Beer is good. Beer is good. It's good. Beer is good. Beer is good. Beer is good. Let's go drink some beer.
I wasn't sure if I was going to play the theme tonight, but I had to belch really, really badly, and between turning off Adrian from the show and breaking my microphone. I thought it was best to mute for a minute. What do you got going here tonight, sir?
Oh,
The first one is
commuters,
actually possibly good news.
commuters on Route I-70 going through Frederick County in Maryland may have had a fun rush hour, or at least a slightly intoxicating rush hour. In Newmarket, Maryland, an overturned tractor trailer carrying beer crashed early Tuesday morning in Frederick County, causing delays for commuters in Newmarket and covering the roadway in the Sudsey Brew. The crash happened just before 5 a.m. along eastbound I-70, just prior to the Maryland 75 interchange. The tractor trailer overturned across all three lanes. One man, the driver, was transported to the hospital for evaluation. All the lanes were blocked and traffic in the area was diverted around the crash scene. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. I know it's a 5 a.m. kind of hair of the dog, but it would be interesting to find out, what
I was
the
looking to see
bruise.
if I could have gotten there before they cleaned it up. It's like 2.5 hour drive.
He was
Ring out that
eastbound
asphalt. Ring it out. Ring out the asphalt.
He
We
was
say, Mike.
eastbound. He was eastbound and down. He was loaded up, and he was trucking. He was going to do what they say can't be done.
Load up and trucking, spilling beer all over the highway. What you got? The next one.
That could have been the issue with this North Kentucky principal.
I was going to say that the first one was really, really fun and interesting, but I really want to hear this one.
NKY, North Kentucky school principal, charged after seen on video with beer bong teen students. In Kenton County, Kentucky, the principal at Scott High School is now facing charges after videos show him drinking and serving alcohol to two high school students, according to the Kenton County Police Department. Anthony Brocacino, Brocaccino, 50 of Independence, is seen in a New Year's Eve 2023 video holding a beer bong while two teens, ages 16 and 17, drink alcohol from it, the police department explained. In the video, a man police say is Brocaccino can be seen in a room with a beer bong and cans of Truly sitting on the table. Police said the video was taken inside Brocaccino's home. I mean, that's a problem right there. At the time, on New Year's Eve 2023, the Kenton County Police Department said Brocaccino was the principal of White's Tower Elementary. The investigation into the incident happened after police said that they were contacted during the October 19th through 20th weekend by the mother of one of the two teens in the video. On October 21st, Kenton County School District spokeswoman Jessica Dykes said in a statement that they are aware of the investigation. This is a personal matter, she said on October 21st. And Cody Wolf, the assistant principal of Scotts High School, has been named the interim principal at the time. And then there's information. If people have additional information regarding the investigation, if you know of this principal, if he's ever partied with you before, feel free to reach out to Detective.
I have something to say about it.
Yeah.
Truly? You mean the Zima of today? Really? You call that alcohol?
Like, were these people related to him, or was that his house on New Year's Eve?
It's Kentucky, man. I can't say.
I mean, that's like, I don't know. I mean, I said it before in the pre-show. Like, you got to do what you got to do to use today.
Got to make connections.
If doing a keg stand is going to get them to listen to you, then more power to you. If snorting a couple lines is going to get them to calm down, and the reason.
Give them a bump.
Put them in a closet, you know.
No. As educators, we should, for the record, state that this is absolutely inexcusable behavior, and none of it's just not something that you do.
Who's an educator? Who you talking to?
the ones in here that, if we have anybody listening that could do anything.
Physically drinking on screen right now.
Yeah. My last news story, gentlemen, craft breweries go to the dogs, just as with music. There's a symbiotic relationship between beer lovers, the brewing community, and dogs. And that relationship is definitely growing. I love taking my dog to the brewery. She loves going to the brewery. As long as
She just loves beer.
she just loves love. She's
People.
just all about everything. She loves people. She doesn't love other dogs. So it does come down to a problem if there are other dogs. We usually have to medicate her to be like, chill down with it. The rise of dog-friendly breweries, American craft breweries, in particular, they increasingly embraced a welcoming attitude toward dogs. This trend has gained traction as breweries often have open or semi-open spaces like patios, gardens, and large tap rooms that are perfect for accommodating man's best friend. One of the reasons for this trend is the casual, community-oriented nature of craft breweries to begin with. Unlike more formal bars and restaurants, breweries tend to present a more laid-back vibe where customers feel comfortable bringing their pets. It also doesn't hurt that a lot of craft breweries are in industrial areas. Craft breweries are often at the heart of local communities, and by welcoming dogs, they attract a wider group of patrons. Dog owners are likely to seek out places that they can enjoy a beer without leaving their pet behind. So more dogs equal more beer sales? Probably. I'd agree. Look, if I don't have to look at the watch and say, my dog's been in her crate for 3 hours, 4 hours, and if I can just relax and enjoy my beer, you're going to get more money out of my pocket. By allowing dogs, breweries tap into the growing demographic of pet owners who see their dogs as part of their family, craft beer drinkers who don't want to leave their furry friends at home. Many breweries take their love for dogs to the next level by hosting dog-specific events, from yappy hours to dog costume contests. Some breweries even brew special beers for dogs made from pet-safe ingredients so dogs can have a drink while their owners sip their craft beer. In 2017, BrewDog instituted Paternity Leave, a global initiative that would not only permit its staff to bring their dogs to work with them daily, but it also allowed employees, puppies, and unsettled rescue dogs a week's leave while their new furry friends acclimated themselves to their new homes. I love that. BrewDog also offers doggy birthday parties at all of its bars in the UK, complete with platters full of dog-safe pup cakes and party hats. While dog-friendly craft breweries is a growing trend, it is not without its challenges. Not every brewery can or should allow dogs, particularly in areas where food safety regulations are stricter or where indoor space is limited. Breweries that welcome dogs often establish guidelines to ensure a safe and enjoyable experience for all guests. Common rules such as keeping dogs on leashes, ensuring that they are well behaved and obviously cleaned up after, are uber important to the overall experience. Some breweries also restrict dogs to outdoor areas to comply with local health codes. For many people, a trip to the brewery is a chance to unwind and socialize, and being able to bring their pets along enhances that experience. Most dogs put out a calm but joyful vibe and can contribute to the relaxed and friendly atmosphere that craft breweries aim to foster. There's something special about enjoying a cold brew with your dog by your side. Craft breweries and dogs are a match made in heaven. They bring together people, pets, and serious beer in a way that fosters community, relaxation, and enhances the whole drinking experience. With the growth of pet owners post-COVID, dog-friendly breweries are destined to flourish as well. And that's doggone news. Doggone it.
That was Beer News is Good News. Next week on Beer News is Good News, New Jersey teachers suspended temporarily if they're caught on video drinking with an underage puppy at a local brewery. We're going to take a quick break to hear these words from Coffee Brothers, and then we'll be back with our main segment, Go To Halloween Films.
I love a good beer, but right now, I can use a good cup of coffee.
Have you heard about Coffee Brothers?
Oh, yeah. They're that coffee company out of New York, right?
Well, they're more like a coffee wizards of New York City. They source these amazing seasonal blends and single origin coffees. It's like a flavor adventure in every cup. And get this, They roast everything in small batches. None of that mass-produced stuff. It's like each bean gets the VIB treatment.
VIB?
Very important bean.
Sounds fancy, but is it worth it?
Definitely. Plus, they're a two-person team. I mean, that's dedication right there. Two brothers, one mission to caffeinate the world. And right now, you can save 10% on your order. I mean, who doesn't love a good discount?
All right, you've convinced me. Let's get some Coffee Brothers now.
Coffee Brothers, where every cup is a sip of perfection. Save 10% on your next order with the code FNF10. That's FNF10. Cheers to great coffee. All right. Thank you for sticking with us after that short break. We are back. I am on my second bottle of Oktoberfest. Kevin killed his pumpkin whiskey, so he is now joining me in the Oktoberfest road, or is that a Jacko?
No. That's a pumpkin fest, but I do have a Jacko in case I get through the pumpkin fest too quickly.
Nice. So
Like, what do you got now? You still
Tonight's main segment we are calling No Tricks, Just Flicks, talking about our favorite go-to Halloween films. Tonight's main segment is brought to you by Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, produced by Focus Features Pictures, starring Willem Dafoe, Lily Rose Depp, and Pennywise Skarsgård. This December, Succumb to the Darkness. Focus Features is not an official sponsor of Films of Fermentation. Any resemblance to actual events or locales or persons living or dead is entirely coincidental. So
well,
we are looking at. Yeah, I practiced. So we.
You almost had me there for like, we got what? We got a sponsor? What?
We got sponsored by an actual movie. 954 5-star reviews and Good Pods really paid off. So we're looking at films that we enjoy watching at this time of year. They're not necessarily Halloween films. They just might be films that, make us feel like we're in the season when we watch them. We are not putting Young Frankenstein on any of our lists, even though that's a go-to for us at Halloween. The only reason is because we already covered it a couple episodes ago when we did our recasting of Young Frankenstein. It is a go-to for all three of us, so we didn't feel like we needed to. We also didn't put Hocus Pocus on here, even though that's a go-to for most of us anyway as well, because we talked about that last week in our Witches episode. And there are some other films that, I had some films I wanted to put on my list that I thought were good ones for this time of year, but I watched them all year round, so I'm like, I'm not going to put them on the list if I watch them all year round. I'm going to stick to movies that I only watch at this time of year. So I think I'll start, since my list starts with the most obvious one of them all. So my Halloween go-to list begins with the original 1978 version of Halloween, directed by one of my all-time favorite directors, John Carpenter, starring Jamie Lee Curtis in her first film role, as Mike told us earlier in our facts for the week, or This Week in Film History facts. It introduces us to a man in a William Shatner mask.
Now, I had heard that the mask was turned inside out, but I don't think that's true because the hair would not have been.
No, it
there.
was. They painted it like. So the mask was a William Shatner mask, but they painted the face like white to kind of cover up all the features, so you didn't really recognize what the mask was. But by doing so, it made it creepier. It gave it more like a ghost-like appearance and all that.
Right.
I was telling Mike a little while ago, you were you ran out of the room. I watched The Last Starfighter the other night because I haven't seen it in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite movies, and I found out for the first time after watching it a million times that the director of The Last Starfighter was the actor who played Mike Myers in the original Halloween.
Oh, really?
So the guy underneath the William Shatner mask directed a childhood favorite film of mine. So what I did for tonight was I looked through all of our list of films that we chose, and I pulled out little clips from each film. So what I tried to do was stick to clips that were under like a minute, or I try not to go over like 30 seconds if possible, but stuck to like somewhere around a minute if I needed to. And I picked out what I thought were some of the better scenes from these films. So here is my favorite scene from the original Halloween, 1978.
Okay, Linda. Come on out.
There are so many more intense jump scares in the history of cinema that one is like so tame by now.
Yeah.
When that film first premiered and people saw it for the first time, like that was a genuine jump scare. He came out of the closet and choked that nerdy dude to death.
Was Jamie Lee Curtis the original Scream Queen?
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
after this, she's the definition, I believe, of the original Scream Queen, as well as the original like Final Girl.
Mm.
You know, because she survives at the end of this film, and then it's maybe Sigourney Weaver as well, because Alien came out the same year, and that was a sort of Scream Queen, Final Girl type role as well. Although
And
a little
was
more.
this one of the first horror movies to use the POV of Mike Myers for
Like
filming
POV
certain
killer.
scenes?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know that much about film history to tell you that, but I'd be curious to see. But yeah, it's definitely at least in like it's one of the first films to be considered like a slasher film.
Yep.
And probably one of the first slasher films to show you the killer's POV.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've never seen the original Halloween, please watch the original before you watch the Rob Zombie version or the other reboot directs that are out there. And before Laurie Strode became his sister, which wasn't until Halloween 2, when John Carpenter changed the lure in the second film because he didn't want to write the second film, but then, you know, when you throw money at somebody.
This was the sister he was supposed to have murdered,
Yes,
15 years
the first
earlier.
film.
Okay.
Yeah. In the first film, he's just some dude just killing random teenagers. So let's go to Mike then. Mike's first film I just watched last night with my wife because it's one of our favorites to go to as a couple.
And I would argue it's almost, more known for being Halloween than Halloween is. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Mm-hmm.
It is The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I love this movie.
I got a rock.
I got a rock.
I might as well play it then. Hold on.
I got 5 pieces of candy. I got a chocolate bar. I got a quarter. I got a rock.
Poor Charlie Brown.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the date on this, 1966, and I'm like, holy shit! In a couple of years, it's going to be celebrating its 60th anniversary.
Mm-hmm. This came out right around the time Mike Myers killed his sister in the first movie.
This is what, 6 years after you were born, Mike? I'm sorry, Michael. I love you.
Fun fact, it wasn't supposed to be Charlie Brown in the screwed up ghost costume. It was supposed to be Linus.
In the screwed up ghost costume, the one with all the holes in it?
The one with all the holes in it. That was supposed to be Linus.
But Linus was in the pump.
Use it on a throne of lies.
No, this is not a lie. This is something I had read somewhere.
Yeah, but so who was supposed to be in the pumpkin patch then?
Waiting for the Great Pumpkin. That was Linus.
No, I know Linus. It's just I'm telling you what I read, and I wish I could cite my source.
Cite your source.
Until then, I believe this is a throne of lies.
Look it up if I can.
Yeah, look it up if you can find it.
As Howard says, it's a glass full of lies.
It's a glass full of lies. I wish I had a soundbite for that.
Moving on.
We'll come back to that. We'll see if that's a real fact or not at some point. How about I'll research that, Kev, while you talk about your first.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
You got to talk about your movie.
My first movie, there is no replacing it. The one and the only. And it shall never be redone to the way it was done perfectly back in 1992, even if the acting is a little, not the greatest. It is The Crow.
But it has to be done.
Was that?
It has been redone, so it can't be the
It
one.
has been redone. It's been sequeled. It's been serialized on television. It's been rebooted. And they all fall dreadfully short of meeting the original Crow with Brandon Lee.
In other words, it's been duplicated, but never replicated.
Yeah, yep, essentially. And unfortunately, this was the movie that, was Brandon Lee's final performance. He was killed in a horrible accident while filming one of the scenes. They had to fill in with stunt doubles, body doubles, and this was one of the first times that they actually took computer. They took the image of his face and replicated it onto the stunt double for select scenes. But you watching it, you can tell which scenes probably don't have him in it, like the ones where you see a silhouette of him, where you don't see his face. It's purely shot from behind. Um, but some of the more iconic scenes where the lightning is flashing and he's becoming the Crow, those were generated via computer and via some of the shots from the movie where he's been thrown out a window that's actually been generated on top of him. It's a great movie based off of a graphic novel by James O'Barr. Very different from the graphic novel, but still a great movie. And I will watch this every year on Devil's Night, which is actually the night before Halloween.
All right. As I said, I have clips for all our films. So here's a quick clip from The Crow.
The hell that thing get in here?
Gentlemen.
Let me go. I gotta go.
You're him, huh? The Avenger. The killer of killers. Nice outfit. Not sure about his face, though.
I just want him.
Well, you can have it.
I see you have made your decision. Now let's see you enforce it.
Oh, this is already boring the shit out of me. Kill him! Ooh, that ain't her.
He's gone.
I love how a motherfucker just gets up and blows people away too. It's not like there's no like kung fu involved or punching or anything. Just like he comes up with a hand cannon.
I don't think there was
Terminator.
any martial arts used in the movie whatsoever. It's just he's the son of Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, and that's
the
what's
connection to
weird
martial
about it.
arts.
You would think he would know something about martial arts, being Bruce Lee's son, but no, he just
And he
gets up.
might. It's just it wasn't in the script, you know.
I love the villain in the film, Top Dollar, played by Michael Wincott, who is like a who's who of like character actors in the '90s. Played a lot of villains, and you know him from this film as Top Dollar, but I know him best as Guy of Gisborne from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh yes.
Why a spoon, cousin? Why not an axe or a knife?
It's blunt, you idiot. It'll hurt more.
Yeah, he was the idiotic younger cousin of the sheriff of Nottingham.
And the guy that Lagrange, I think was the name of his muscle, was Candyman. I think that was the same guy who played Candyman.
Yeah, it's
another good Halloween movie.
Another good Halloween movie. Another actor who I got to look up his name because I can't remember. It's something Scott. I think
Tony.
No, Tony Scott was a director.
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott. I don't think it was him either. His name was Tony Todd. I was close.
Tony Todd.
Tony Todd.
I had the Tony right. You just
Yeah, Tony part right. I had the last name mixed up. It was he's like another who's who of like actors in the 90s films, played a lot of villains. So we're gonna go back to my list then for the night.
Hold that thought, because I went through IMDb's trivia and I know what the actual element was. It was in the original comic strip. It's Linus who had the trouble with the scissors and his costume's eye holes, not Charlie Brown. So it was the comic strip, not something that they changed for the movie, just something that was changed for the movie. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was trying to find it while you were talking about the Crow and I couldn't find it. So, whew, dodge that bullet.
Leave it to me to find the facts.
Dodge that bullet, unlike the guys in that scene from the Crow, including. I was not going to make a joke. I was going to say including Brandon Lee. I didn't mean to say it. I wasn't talking about it for that reason. I was actually, actually referring to the scene itself, him as the Crow. And then as I was about to say it, I was like, "Oh no, that's not a good thing."
The actor who actually was holding the gun, and it was a shard of metal that was stuck in the chamber.
Yes.
Behind whatever the cap, the flash, whatever that propelled out. He A, has never watched the movie. B, took a few years off of acting right after that because he just was the self-guilt and everything. But he does come back in a couple small roles following that, and then he just passed away not long ago.
If it happened today, he would have been prosecuted. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what happened with Rust?
And it wouldn't be his fault. I think it's Brandon Lee's death on this film led to some of the safety precautions that they use on films now for gun use and things like that. And so, people should be prosecuted, or the people who are in charge of making sure the props are safe. A lot of films now don't use blanks in the guns anymore either. They use empty guns and they add the flash and the bullets and stuff like that in post.
Actually, I was watching a behind the scenes of The Penguin, and that's what they're using in the series The Penguin. The guns actually fire the flashes like what you would see, but there are no bullets to it, so it gets the lighting right, but there is nothing there. So
and if that's how you plan on using the CGI, I'm okay with that, because if it makes the actor safer, go for it. And if I see you guys on Sunday, we need to talk to Penguin, because that show is phenomenal. My second movie on my list is my favorite slasher film of all time, quote unquote slasher film, my favorite horror. It is the 1987 original. We're all talking about originals tonight. We are not talking about remakes. I did not like the remake of Hellraiser, so I'm talking about the original Hellraiser from 1987. I'm not going to go too much detail into this because I've spoke about it before. And if you really would like to know my thoughts on that movie, watch the movie or check out my guest appearance on Back to the Blockbuster last October 2023, where I spent an hour and a half talking to the guys about Hellraiser. But I will play one of my favorite quotes from the film.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
No tears, please. It is a waste of suffering. The thing I like about Hellraiser is Pinhead and the other Cenobites are not the villains. Their job is to reap the villains and bring them to damnation. They're basically like angels. They're kind of like demons, like angels of death. And the villain in the film is actually a person who is just really evil, and they come to collect his soul at the end, and it's a great scene at the end too. But it's like, everybody gets it wrong, because in the later films, Pinhead and the Cenobites start to become like the villains of the franchise, and he actually becomes more like Freddy Krueger, because he becomes like real sarcastic and snippy in the later films. So I'm a big fan of the first one, and the second one's pretty good too, because that was also Clive Barker. But after Clive Barker left the films, all downhill from there.
Mhm.
So yes, watch the original if you haven't. It is only an hour and a half, and it's worth the time. Speaking of Freddy Krueger, Mike, what's your second one on the list there?
Oh, Friday the 13th? No. The Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
love
Anything
this
that attacks you in your dreams.
Yeah, it's not like nightmares aren't creepy enough, and then somebody makes a movie about a guy that
Yeah.
kills you in nightmares.
1, 2, Freddy's after you. 3, 4, better lock
Suck your
your
mom through the door.
Mhm.
So I was looking. So in deciding what scene to show for this, I had three choices in mind. There was the final shot of the mom getting pulled through the door, which is such an awful special effect because it wasn't in the original ending of the film. The studio made Wes Craven add that.
Right.
Johnny Depp in his first screen role getting pulled into the bed and all the blood shooting up from inside it. But I opted for my third choice, which I think is one of my favorite practical effects of all time. And I think you'll know what it is when I show you. That's our final girl for that film. Laying in
So,
bed.
which film was it where the girl's being eaten, like a boa constrictor eating Freddy Krueger eating her? Is that 3?
Is that? I think that's Dream Warriors. I think that's 3.
3.
I think
Yeah.
it's 3.
The
I haven't seen
last
Dream
good
Warriors
one, too.
Yeah,
Wait,
the last of the good ones, Dream Warriors. Yeah, I think that's Dream Warriors. It's been a while since I've seen the second and third one. The first one I've seen recently. It's one that I'll say it's like a rewatch for me too around this time of year. So that's our final girl, Nancy, played by Heather Langenkamp. And the reason I chose that scene because I said it's one of my favorite practical effects. It's Freddy Krueger coming through the wall, haunting her in her dreams, and that special effect cost $10 because all they did was they cut the wall out, hung up a sheet, and it's Robert Englund just pressing his face and hands against the sheet. But when you film it like that with the shadows and everything, it really is a striking effect.
Mm-hmm.
It costs $10. I really wish studios would learn their lessons. You don't need $500 million to make a great film. So, Michael, you have anything else you'd like to say about Nightmare on Elm Street?
Freddy's after you. Nah.
Second one on Kevin's list is a 1944 classic, not the 1963 TV movie that I watched accidentally thinking that it was the original. The one I watched had Cody Randall in it and not the the gentleman in this film. So go ahead, Kev.
This is movies can be hereditary, right? I believe this wholeheartedly because my mother had made me watch a whole series of movies, which I am sure when I had to watch them with her, I had no interest or very little interest. And because they would come on every year, because you would spend that time with that person, because once you watch it and do it willingly, you learn to appreciate it more. It just becomes, something that you do. So this is Arsenic and Old Lace, 1944, starring Cary Grant. This was a Frank Capra movie based off of the play, right? Because this was a play first and foremost on stage. And what it's about, it's Mortimer Brewster. He's a Brooklyn writer of books about the futility of marriage and relationships. But he risks his reputation after he decides to tie the knot. to the girl next door, quite literally the girl next door. Things grow complicated as he learns that his beloved maiden aunts Abby and Martha are in fact serial killers, and this all takes place over the course of one night. It's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of Cary Grant doing his, and doing the faces and the eyes and everything else. It's a great movie. It really is. I believe the original stage production had who played Frankenstein? Come on, Boris Karloff in it, and it's a running joke that the character who plays Mortimer's brother, Jonathan, is constantly referenced as looking like that monster from the movie, which is Boris Karloff, who is playing the character of Jonathan in the play, not in the movie. In the movie,
Well,
it was
in the movie that I mistakenly watched with Tony Randall as the main character, they actually had Boris Karloff in that film playing the brother. And so when they were making the jokes about Boris Karloff, it actually was Boris Karloff. He returned for the TV film, but not the feature film that was based on the play that he was in, playing a character like Boris Karloff.
That was Raymond Massey, who played Jonathan Brewster.
Yeah. I thought it was funny because they have Peter Lorre's in that version of the film, and I thought if you would get any weird actor to look like somebody that looked like Boris Karloff, you do Peter Lorre. He Einstein.
You see, now here's the thing: if we were doing the recast like we had of Young Frankenstein, and we could have used older actors, Peter Lorre might have fit the bill.
Oh, he's a definite Igor.
Yeah,
definite Igor. And Boris Karloff could have replayed the monster.
He could have.
So you were talking about Cary Grant's expressions and stuff, and the clip I found, I chose this clip mainly because it was a shorter one, but the title of the clip is Best Cary Grant Reaction in Arsenic and Old Lace. Let's see what this is.
One of those whodunits called Murder Will Out.
Oh, here.
What a play. When the curtain goes up, the first thing you see is a dead body. The next thing... Hey, mister.
Something I like about Cary Grant is he was considered one of the most handsome men in Hollywood at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't have a problem leaning into looking goofy in a film either.
No. Okay. So I think it's fair to give George Clooney the Cary Grant of today.
Yeah.
Because you can also see that he's got the handsomeness, but he can also do that funny shit with his face that you see in the Hail Caesar and
I was thinking
Brother, Where Art Thou?
Where Art Thou? Yeah, that's a real sort of Cary Grant role.
Talk to Goats or whatever that one was.
Yeah. He definitely has that sort of can lean into goofy, except even though he's handsome kind of feel.
Exactly.
So the next one on my list is a terrible movie, but I don't know why I love it so much. It just goes into my my old classic movies that I love to watch, even though they're bad list. This came out in 2001. It's actually a remake.
It's a remake. There is a remake on the list.
We do have a remake on our list, so this is a remake, but I actually like this better than the original version. This came out in 2001. It's called 13 Ghosts. And it stars Tony Shalhoub and Matthew Lillard, Shannon Elizabeth, and F. Murray Abraham. It is about a family who inherits a house from an uncle that the main character hadn't seen in years, who apparently passed away and left them in this house. The house is a giant glass machine filled with all these ghosts that are being brought together for this weird ritual to try to gain power or some shit like that. There's a bunch of obvious twists and turns in it. The effects for the ghosts are really cool. The ghosts are very creepy. It's not as much scariness as you think. It's more like goofiness, I think, but there's just something about it that I really get a kick out of. And just for Kevin, because I know how much he likes gore, I chose what is possibly the goriest effect in the film to show as my clip for 13 Ghosts, which I actually just watched prior to recording because it was on AMC.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
You
It's
don't
like that
understand.
scene from The Cell.
Yeah. I had to do
Really?
so much heavy editing on that clip to put it in here.
Mhm.
Not because the guy gets cut in half in a very brutally, like graphic way,
Mhm.
but the ghost that was haunting him in that scene was fucking fully frontal nude.
Oh.
I could post the violence when I upload this to Buzzsprout later, but I couldn't post the boobies.
No puppies.
I had to edit out the nudity of all things. If you've never seen Ghosts, I'm not going to say you need to watch it because it's really not that great a film, but it's one that I really get a kick out of watching, especially around this time of year. So.
I love how they can all see the ghost because of special glasses.
Special glasses. So that actually goes back to the original film. The original film was filmed in a way that you couldn't see the ghost on screen unless you wore like special 3D glasses in the audience.
Really?
Yeah. So like audiences would go to see the movie and they would be given these special like little cardboard glasses that they had to wear.
Mhm.
And when you wore them, you would see the ghosts in the film, even though the actors couldn't see them. And so that's kind of like a little bit of an homage to that. Like they can only see the ghost with these special glasses. So it does tie back to the original a little bit. Mike's next movie, I was saying to him in pre-show, I just watched a few days ago because I hadn't seen it in years, and another podcast that just did a whole episode on it as talking about how rewatchable it is. And I was like, well, I got to test that theory since I haven't watched it in a while. Well, I have to say it's still entertaining. So, Michael, what's your next movie?
It is definitely a ghost movie you should go out and see if you haven't seen it.
Yes, I would recommend this more than 13 Ghosts.
This would be They're Here.
They're here.
Altergeist.
Altergeist. Here, let me do the real one.
No, nothing else could make a static-filled television screen more horrifying than this movie.
Yes.
That and the little fucking toy.
The clown?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got it, Mike.
Yeah, I pretty much a family buys a house, it's haunted.
because the realtors were too cheap to dig up the bodies that were buried underneath it.
You moved the headstones, but you left the bodies.
Yes, exactly. The villains in that movie are friggin' realtors.
The villains in all movies should be the realtors.
Poor Coach, I tell you.
Yeah, poor Coach. Poor Mr. Incredible. When's the first time you saw this, Mike?
I'm
going to say like I was 5 when this movie came out, so it was definitely later when I saw this for the first time.
It may have been a year or two after it came out.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that long after it came out.
Because it's I mean, even though it's a creepy film, scary film, like watching it,
it's jump scares.
Yeah, it's not a tough film to watch. It's not like gory or anything. I mean, there is like the swimming pool scene with the dead bodies at the end.
No, I'm thinking of the one paranormal expert who went into the bathroom and starts peeling away at his face. Parts of his face start to come off. I mean, he's hallucinating, but you definitely see his face is becoming dislodged. Everything else is a jump scare.
I will give you a fun fact for this one too. The last scene is, towards the end, there's
still not gore for gore's sake.
No, it's not gore for gore's sake. It's not like you're watching Saw. So the scene where they're in the swimming pool with the dead bodies.
Yeah,
they were real dead bodies.
Yes.
And they didn't tell the actresses that they were real until after they filmed the scene.
Oh.
So kind of like an almost real reaction that they got from them in that movie.
There's a bit of a curse to this movie, like an actual,
There's always rumors about a curse to this movie.
Well, the little girl passed away from like some freak like medical condition, something like a year or two after this film. Yeah.
Right.
And then I think there's like another actor who passed away after the second film. So it kind of gets that like reputation of sort of being cursed.
Yeah.
Which a lot of movies do when that sort of thing happens. This was so rumor has it. So Spielberg is a producer on this film and not listed as a director, but rumor has it that he was very on hand as the producer of the film.
It has a Spielberg flair to it.
Spielberg feel to it. So it almost feels like it was sort of like a ghost directing project for him.
Yeah.
No pun intended. So that's a good one.
You know what else was creepy? It was that little woman with the high pitched voice.
Oh yeah.
Hello, Carrie Ann, can you hear me, Carrie Ann?
She's in like every single sequel for the Poltergeist too. As well.
Zelda Rubinstein.
Yeah. The next one on Kev's list is a very recent one. Only came out in 2023. Go ahead, Kev. Tell us a little bit about it.
I know I told you guys to watch this, and I'm sure you both did because you take my advice very, very to heart. You know I know something good when it comes on.
I always watch stuff all the time because I always have so much free time on my hands.
Yeah, it's on my list.
So you guys both caught this, right?
It's on my list.
It's on my list too. Go ahead.
Oh man, I lost it. This is The Fall of the House of Usher. That's on Netflix. I was trying to look it up.
So, Fall of the House of Usher is an Edgar Allan Poe story,
right?
Does this series like follow?
So it's got 8 episodes. Each episode kind of has an Edgar Allan Poe story as the basis for the episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's this all-encompassing theme of like this family, this super wealthy family, this who cut corners, who try to get away with whatever they are. They are the elite, they are the privileged. And over the course of the series, the family starts to fall apart in horrific ways, right? Trying to find the source of whoever the leak is in the family, who's giving things to the prosecutor, who's going after the family for their practices and things of that nature. So the first episode centers around the Mask of Red Death. And if you're familiar with the Poe story, you can tie the parts to it. Obviously it's dated, but it's modernized, but you have that, you have the Black Cat, you have the Pit and the Pendulum. You have a whole series of Poe stories that kind of center around this. It was done by Mike Flanagan, who's done a lot for Netflix. He's done The House on Haunted Hill. He's done The Haunting of Bly Manor. He's done Midnight Mass. He's done a lot.
He's also the director of Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that.
I really like. He's a really creative, director and all that. So he's made some really fun stuff. So I definitely have to check this out because I like the other things.
Oh man, it's great. And there's so many there's so many moments where it's like, And
I'm a Poe fan too, so I'd like to. Yeah, I keep joking that it's on my list, but I definitely will watch this.
I told you guys about this last year and how good it was. I said Megan and I watched an episode a night, and it was great leading up to Halloween.
So
and you're like,
I have a clip to show. I have a clip to show. For me, it's out of context, but for you, it should mean something.
4 deaths in a row is not a coincidence. We don't need to know how it's happening to know it's happening. We are under attack. And if that doesn't snap you out of this, remember, Vic had a board seat. Oh, now you're listening. Yes, brother dear. Has it not occurred to you that if these coincidences keep happening, that family firewall you've always talked about is being dismantled one brick at a time? We could lose control of the board. That woman from the bar, if we don't find her, if we don't stop her now, you won't have a family left. You won't have a company either.
That's something we can work with, at least. Yes, finally. Something I can actually do.
So
it's so good. That is
Bruce Greenwood, who's a great character actor. That's Mary McDonnell in that scene.
Yeah.
Mary McDonnell from Sneakers.
Yeah. And that is, they play Roderick and Madeline Usher, who are siblings who are, kind of partners with what happens. And it's a whole thing that kind of follows. Man, it's good. It is so fucking good. I may.
Carla Cugino's in it. I really like Carla Cugino. Yeah, I will check it out.
And it's got Henry Thomas, who may pop up later in the episode. Who knows? We'll see.
Who knows? Maybe. Yeah.
Henry Thomas may show up again.
My next movie on my list is probably the goriest film on my list. It is a scary film on top of being a gory film. So it's not just gore for gore's sake. Like, this is a fucking creepy movie that really freaks me out. 2007. It is based on a graphic novel. It is called 30 Days of Nights. Stars
That's a good one.
It is a really good one. Josh Hartnett as a sheriff in a little Alaskan town that has to deal with 30 days of darkness every year because of where they're positioned, on the earth. And unfortunately, during this one stretch of 30-day darkness, they are invaded by a tribe of vampires who get to run amok in the town because there is no sunlight for them to have to worry about. Run amok, 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 amok. The other thing I like that's cool about the vampires too is they speak a sort of like ancient Russian language almost, because they're not, they had to like cross over the Bering Strait to get into this little town in Alaska. So it's kind of like some little like cool things like that. The scene I chose from this is really creepy scene. It's the main vampire character speaking with this woman who is, absolutely terrified because she knows that her time is up here because she's surrounded by all the vampire tribe.
Please, God, please.
No, God.
The other thing that's cool about the vampires is they're very feral looking.
Mm.
They don't sparkle. I thought, Mike, for your next one here, I got a good clip from it, but the clip that I thought about showing, but I ultimately didn't put in here, was Beetlejuice going, "I've seen The Exorcist 687 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time that I see it. Not to mention the fact you're talking to a dead guy." And I was like, nah, it's okay. We'll just show an Exorcist clip.
The Exorcist.
Yes.
Still frightens me every time I watch it.
I will say, like, it was scary the first couple times I watched it because I was like a teenager. Now when I watch it, like, I kind of laugh at certain things. There's still some things that are scary.
There's some jump scares there that get you.
Yeah, the jump scare. The only thing that always gets me is like that real brief moment where you see the demon's face.
Yeah.
What's the demon's name?
Pazuzu.
What was the other name that he went by?
Pazuzu.
Wasn't it Captain Howdy? Am I thinking the wrong thing?
I think that's what Reagan calls him, the little girl. I think she calls him Captain Howdy. Yeah. But his name actually is Pazuzu.
Pazuzu. Did you guys see it when it was re-released in the 90s or early 2000s?
Yeah, and they added like the scene of her walking like a spider down the steps. And
Yes, the crab walk.
that was creepy. That shit creeped me out.
Yeah, man.
But ultimately, there are certain things in the film that make me laugh, like this line.
Yeah, that would make me laugh.
The enemy have no power over.
I'm the son with iniquity be powerless to harm.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell, Karis, you faithless slime.
what?
Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
What the demon says to the
like the things that the demon says are just awesome.
When I first watched that, I was like, what? I was young.
Like I did. So one thing that's like a plot hole for me is when they finally get the demon out of her, and you see her like a couple weeks later, whatever it is, she still has like scars on her face from some of the different things that the demon did to her while she was possessed.
Right.
How is she not paralyzed from having her neck twisted around 360 degrees?
I mean,
it wasn't.
You just need a good chiropractor for that.
It just loosened the muscles a little bit.
That's right. She never ate split pea soup again.
Yeah. I never ate split pea soup after watching that movie.
There was a lot of controversy around this because Linda Blair, who played Regan, got a nomination for Best Supporting Actress for this film, even though the voice that is used in the film is not hers. Like it's mostly dubbed over throughout most of the film.
Right.
So, have you ever seen The Exorcist 2?
What?
The Exorcist 2?
Exorcist Part 2.
Yes.
More exercising?
You don't need to see it. Speaking of that, Linda Blair is a physical trainer in that film. Yeah, but it's a bad movie.
Yeah, it's bad.
And Exorcist 3, on the other hand,
3.
One of the best jump scares I've ever seen in a movie.
Who's in 3?
George C. Scott is an investigator investigating a serial killer. And the only thing exorcist about it is he has to go visit Father Karras in a mental institution, and he's still possessed. But there's a great jump scare scene.
Wait a second, because I've never seen. Wait, I thought he killed himself at the end. I'm sorry, spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen The Exorcist. Doesn't he jump out a window?
He jumps out a window, but he's still alive because the other.
Are you kidding me?
Well, the other priest goes over, bends down next to him, and says, "Is there anything you would like to confess, Father Karras?" And you see his hand kind of like shaking a little bit. But I think like the implication is that he's probably going to die. But then they bring him back in the third film.
Yeah,
because he was possessed. It's kind of like saying like his body survived, just like she's able to survive having her head twisted around 360 degrees.
Good chiropractor, man. That's all she needed.
That takes us to number 4 on Kevin's list.
La 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 la. E.T. And yes, I know this movie didn't come out around Halloween. It came out in the middle of the summer, but it takes place around Halloween. And it's a great childhood movie of something you watch. And who didn't want to be Henry Thomas? Look, he came back. Oh my gosh!
I would say like who didn't want to have an alien friend? Who didn't want to? It was also. I would say it's a Halloween film because Halloween plays a big part in the movie because it's the only time he's able to like freely walk around.
Reese's Pieces on the map.
It put Reese's Pieces on the map.
And Mars screw up.
Yes, right, because wasn't it supposed to be like M&Ms or something like that? And
Mars didn't want
said no.
Product used.
Reese's Pieces like sales went up like 300% afterwards. So I have the Halloween clip for this film, so let's take a look at that real quick.
Thank you, Paul Rudd.
Thank you. So, a la Paul Rudd. That was not E.T. That was the movie that E.T. ripped off, Mac and Me. Here is E.T. the extraterrestrial. That scene in Attack of the Clones proved that E.T. and Yoda are from the same universe.
Same universe.
Really? Because I got the black screen that says, your browser failed to play this clip. I had a black
I
screen.
saw it on my phone.
I saw it on my screen. As long as the people see it on their screen when they watch the video.
I'm
You've
sitting
seen
here
this, Mike.
laughing.
You know what I'm talking about.
I'm laughing, going, "Oh, I hope it went out to everybody else."
This was the beginning of a career for Henry Thomas, Drew Barrymore, C. Thomas Howell, D. Wallace. Actually, I don't know if it was the beginning of a career for D. Wallace. Peter Coyote was in it, though. It's a great movie. And then, as they tend to do, they re-release it and they make edits and they add a CGI ET, which looks horrible, and they take away the guns of the FBI agents and put walkie-talkies in their hands because, kids are going to be afraid of walkie-talkies. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. That's such a weird edit.
Because you can't be chasing kids with guns.
Or an alien.
Not in 1982.
Yeah.
Well, not nowadays. You can't. Jeez.
1982, they would have just shot the kids and walked away.
Yeah.
This movie gave away a lot of good tips as to how to get away from or how to get out of going to school for the day, like to hold the thermometer up to a light and get the temperature up, and
how to sexually harass a female student and get away with it.
That's right. Scenes from The Quiet Man are made in this movie. Frequent references to the Star Wars series and toys are made in this movie. And the iconic, flying your bike over the in front of the moon,
which then became the logo for Amblin Entertainment after that.
Yep.
Steven Spielberg's company.
Yeah.
The last one on my list is another film from 2007. This one kind of flew under the radar. It came and went. It didn't do well in the box office, but kind of has a cult following now. And there's a big community of people out there that enjoy this film. I saw it at a Halloween party. I had not heard of this film, and then I was at a Halloween party at one of my cousin's houses, and he had it playing on the TV. And I was so disinterested in the party that I sat and watched the movie instead. And it was a really good film. It's called Trick or Treat. Not Trick or Treat, which is a different slasher film from the early 80s. This is the 2007 film Trick or Treat, the letter R. It stars Anna Paquin. It is a anthology horror series, which I do like. I do enjoy those, like Creepshow and House and films like that. Like I like those anthology horrors. And in this one, there's 5 stories, all taking place on Halloween. All of them in the same little town. There's a story about a serial killer. There's a story about a group of children who were drowned in a bus accident. There's a story about werewolves, which is the story that Anna Paquin is involved in. And all of the stories are tied together by the appearance of a little boy in a burlap mask named Sam Hain. And Sam Hain is
the spirit of Halloween.
Yeah, he's the spirit of Halloween, and he is the through line in all of these anthology stories. You see him kind of appear here and there throughout the scenes. And he's basically haunting people who are not celebrating Halloween appropriately. And so the scene I have here is called the back to school scene, which is kind of like the first time you see Sam Hain in the film. You don't fuck. I mean, so I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen the film, but you do get to see what his face looks like under the burlap mask at one point, and it's fun. It's a fun scene. And yeah, he does he kind of takes vengeance on people who don't follow the rules of Halloween throughout the film, but then it also has all these other little stories playing into it too, and everything kind of it all ties together at the end. But it's a really fun sort of cult favorite at this point now. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Trick or Treat with Anna Paquin and Brian and stars in that film. Mike, your last one on the list, one we've talked about before.
Talk about your cult favorites.
A film that we recast it way back when.
Yes, we did. And if you notice, none of my films are recent. They're all from the 80s or later.
Yes, what's fine. I mean,
because I hate modern horror movies.
Not all bad. 30 Days a Night's pretty good. Trick or Treat's pretty good.
but most of them are gore for gore's sake. So, so I'm going Lost Boys. Oh, I love this movie.
Boys. Thou shalt not kill. So let's see. What scene do I have for this one? Oh, here we go.
It's gotta be Grandpa.
You think? I don't know.
One thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach. All the damn vampires.
Definitely in the top 5 of my favorite final scenes of all time.
It's either that or it's going to be the Kiefer Sutherland vampire face sticking out.
We did that on our celebrity vampire episode 2 episodes ago, so I was like, I didn't want to use that one. Wanted to do the one with Max revealing himself as the head vampire. That's a really long scene, and I wasn't able to edit down into a way that was coherent.
Yeah.
And you know what, man? I just go with Grandpa scene because that's one of the best endings of all time. Knowing that he knew about it the whole time and never told anybody. You know what scene I actually was tempted to show Mike just to fuck with you?
What's this?
Saxophone guy. Big muscular dude in the tight pants playing the saxophone. I really was tempted to show that.
That's typical 80s right there.
It was an 80s movie if there wasn't any sex.
That dude still makes appearances at conventions, living off of that 5-minute scene that he was in the Lost Boys. Milking that for all it's worth. Yeah, Lost Boys, great film, and we've talked about that a lot in the past. And like I said, if you are really interested, check out. I want to say it was season 6 or 7 that we did a recasting episode of the Lost Boys. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. And that takes us to the last one on Kevin's list. Last movie for tonight.
This is from someone who does a very good job with Halloween-ish movies, Tim Burton. This was 1999's Sleepy Hollow, the telling of Ichabod Crane and the famous Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow, New York. Starring Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, Miranda Richardson. This is really, though, I mean, that's just scratching the surface. It's got everybody. It's got Michael Gambon, Jeffrey Jones, Casper Van Dien, Ian McDermott. It's got a couple, Michael Gould, Christopher Walken is in it. It's great. It's
Ray Parks. Ray Parks.
Ray Parks is in it. And it's told in only a way that Tim Burton can really tell. I thought it was done rather well. So as the changing of certain aspects, Ichabod Crane is not a school teacher anymore. He's a detective from New York sent up to Sleepy Hollow to investigate the crimes of decapitation, and it's good because it kind of adds the story, there's the mystery and the supernatural, and they kind of join to make a great story of what's going on in Sleepy Hollow, and you can see the certain elements from Disney's, the Headless Horseman story and everything else, but
film, as you said,
special effects are amazing.
Film that only Johnny Depp could do. Take a 15-page short story, or not Johnny Depp, but Tim Burton. Take a 15-page short story and turn it into an hour and 45-minute long movie.
Right. But it doesn't. Did you? I mean, you've seen it, so do you think it went? Was it too long?
No, I mean, hour 45-minute is pretty brisk. It's you know me. I always complain about movies that are always like over 2 hours unnecessarily. Yeah. This is a movie that could have been unnecessarily over 2 hours, but it was restrained into the fact that it was. There are a few scenes that kind of drag a little bit, but overall, it's a pretty quick film.
But like taking, you know, the legend of how the Headless Horseman came to be, why he's back, who's controlling him, what's going on, the addition of like witches to it, you know, and yeah,
because you got Johnny Depp chewing up his scenes that he needs, you know,
as the Johnny Depp Tim Burton only he can, you know.
Yes.
Let me here. I'll show a little clip from the movie.
Ooh.
And you know, if I'm going to show a scene, it's going to have Chris Walken in it.
Yes.
You just expect him to go, "Give me some sugar, baby." You know. And
here's the thing that's funny about that scene is like, so I love the filed teeth. I love the whole look of the horseman. Even when he doesn't speak and just makes noises, it's still distinctly Christopher Walken. It was like,
more cowbells. Oh.
Gonna kiss you.
Fever. The only prescription is more cowbell. So yeah, that's a good one there too. And like I like the funny is I was thinking like, what are some other Tim Burton ones that could fall on this list pretty easily? Edward Scissorhands popped in my head, but I'm like, that's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, Sweeney Todd.
But you could also have The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is both a Halloween and a Christmas movie in a way.
You got Corpse Bride.
Corpse Bride's another one. Yeah,
Frankenweenie.
Frankenweenie. I would say. I'm trying to think of some ones that
Mars Attacks, maybe.
Maybe. Willy Wonka, maybe because it's about candy. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I had a couple. I was going to do Cabin in the Woods on my list because I talk about it all the time, but I watch it all year round. It's not just a Halloween film for me. And I originally had a
cabin door. Knock on the cabin.
Knock on the cabin. No, it's not. That's I thought it was okay. It was interesting to see Batista, of course, because I'm always interested to see Batista in roles. But it's not a great film. It's not like a definite rewatchable for me. So I ended up liking the list that I went with, and I stuck with 5, like I promised.
I thought of one that could have made my list. House, the original House. Yeah,
not House 2, the next level.
No. House, the original with the greatest American hero. Yes,
I like House 2 because it got John Ratzenberger in it.
I like the story better than House 1.
Creep Show would have been another good one too.
Tales from the Crypt. Oh, sorry.
Well, Tales from the Crypt, yeah, because I mean, it's an anthology series, horror series, and I know that there's definitely some Halloween episodes in that show. So, wasn't there like a good Halloween episode from X-Files? Wasn't there like that black and white one where they were like looking for I can't remember who they were looking for some like some like cryptid creature or something, and it was like the episode was filmed in black and white.
You would have to ask Adrian about that.
Yeah, I'll have to ask your wife about that one because I remember that episode.
But if we want to talk black and white episodes, we got to go with Supernatural with the old school monsters.
The Universal Monster episode. Yeah, and then there's Scooby Doo.
Scooby Doo.
So here, Scroob. Here are some shout outs we got here. So I asked on our social media sites, what's your go-to Halloween film? Doesn't necessarily have to be Halloween themed, but just a movie you like to watch around this time of year. And I got the first responses I got on Facebook were from my mom, my dad, and my sister Dana. So my mom said Hocus Pocus. My sister Dana said Nightmare on Elm Street. Love Freddy. And my dad said House on Haunted Hill, the original one with Vincent Price. And I would say a lot of Vincent Price movies could probably go on this list too, because speaking of like Edgar Allan Poe, he starred in a version of The Mask of the Red Death that is really, really good.
Oh yeah,
it's a Roger Corman horror film from the '60s with Vincent Price. Doc's Flux on Threads said he said in his quote in his answer, "Sedative." So I'm assuming he's going on Frankenstein. Also on Threads, YNY Cephalon. Mine is a nostalgia fuel, but it would have to be Halloween is Grinch Night. I used to watch it every year as a kid and made it a tradition again recently. Has anyone seen Halloween is Grinch Night?
No.
I'm guessing it's like a Dr. Seuss, thing. I have not seen this. So it's 1977. It's called It's a Grinch Night. And it is Halloween themed. Look at that. I did not even know that this existed. I might have to go find out and check it out. Let's see. John Grimditch on Facebook said, "What hump?" So one of our friends on Twitter is one of our other podcast friends, the Bar Banter podcast, wrote Elf for sure. And I said, "'Tis the season, I guess." But what I really meant to say was this.
You sit on a throne of lies.
And then he actually wrote back to me later, and he was like, in all seriousness, I actually love Paranormal Activity, the original film, or like a Halloween film. So that's a good old found footage film. This guy Kevin on Instagram wrote Steel Magnolias.
That's a scary movie. That is frightening.
Lauren Peterson on Instagram wrote Abbott and Costello Meet the Frankenstein. It's a good old classic comedy one. It's called Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, but they basically meet every single Universal monster in that film. And she also wrote The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. Is anybody aware of that film? Because I don't think I know that one. So it's The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. Let's see if I can find this on IMDb. It's taking a while here. Here it is. Ghost and Mr. Chicken. It's a Don Knotts film. That sounds about right. A timid typesetter has a ghost of a chance of becoming a reporter until he decides to solve a murder mystery and ends up spending a frightful night in a haunted house. So I guess he's Mr. Chicken because he's a scaredy cat. And lastly, I wrote on Facebook yesterday, last chance to get a shout out on our upcoming episode. What's your go-to Halloween flick? I'm looking at you, All Hallows Eve podcast. And Kathy and Jason from All Hallows Eve wrote back. Jason said A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. Spoke about it a little bit earlier. And Kathy wrote Hocus Pocus 2. Hocus Pocus, sir.
And we kind of talked last week how Hocus Pocus 2 was ranked higher, I think, than Hocus Pocus was on that ranker. Was it?
So not on the list that we used on the episode, but one of the ones we were talking about at your house on Saturday.
That's right.
It was like a different. I think it was like a Halloween movie list or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was ranked higher. But I mean, it wasn't bad, but I wouldn't rank it. I think Hocus Pocus, the original one's the better of the two. So
agreed.
Everybody has their own likes. So, Mike,
not the Rob Zombie movie for them, huh? I love
House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, that wasn't on their go-to list for All Hallows Eve.
Here's what I gotta say to that.
So why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?
Yeah, I know that's your favorite movie.
Yeah.
I'd buy that for $1.
Only
if
if
you
you
really
get
want to know, if you really want to know what we think about that, go to All Hallows Eve podcast.
go to the All
Listen
Hallows
to
Eve
the comment.
podcast. Listen to our review of A House of a Thousand Corpses. It is a house of a thousand laughs because we shit all over that movie for an hour and a half. You have any beer trivia or history for tonight, Mike?
I got some beer fun fact. The first Pilsner beer was brewed by Joseph Grohl in 1842 in Czech city of Pilsen. Today, two of the best styles of Pilsner are German Pilsners, which has a greater emphasis on the hop bitterness, and the Bohemian Pilsner from the Czech Republic, which is softer and maltier. American Pilsners were initially brewed with corn and or rice for a lighter, drier finish. Italian craft brewers have also come up with an Italian version that is a dry hop. There you go, boys. Pilsners.
It's funny. I was watching. I think it was Jimmy Fallon, and Tom Holland was on there, and he was speaking about his non-alcoholic beer that Kevin talked about in his beer news last week.
Mm-hmm.
And, the reason I thought of it was because one of the beers was a Pilsner. So he had a Pilsner and an IPA, and he was talking about the process for making them, and they actually sounded really good, even though they're non-alcoholic. He said it was pretty much like all the things you would expect to have in beer minus the alcohol. So it still had like the flavor and the color and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting. I might have to try one just to say I tried it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We have a quote for the evening.
The most. Oh, hold on. Am I doing this in the Alfred Hitchcock voice?
You can if you want to try.
The more successful the villain, the more successful the picture.
I would like to say, like, I don't know how true that is, but then it is pretty true.
It is pretty true. The villain makes the stories.
A good villain will actually make the story that much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yes, absolutely.
Like Die Hard, like anything that Alan Rickman was in. Like the horror movies that we talked about tonight, like Nightmare on Elm Street and Hellraiser and all that stuff. Yeah. The villains in the James Bond films, like, yeah, you have a good villain. You have a Darth Vader in your movie.
Exactly.
How were your drinks this evening? Mike, how was your milkshake?
It was fine.
I wish I had a clip from There Will Be Blood that I could show here where he goes, I drink your milkshake. I drink it up. How was it, Mike?
It's fine.
Where'd you get it from?
Wawa.
Wawa. Okay, I didn't know they had a pumpkin milkshake.
Yeah, they do. It's pretty good.
Not that I would try it, but I didn't know they have it. Kev, how was your switch from pumpkin whiskey to Oktoberfest?
I am pumpkined out, man. I got about a half a bottle left of the Jacko. I got through the entire bottle of Oktoberfest and polished off that bottle of whiskey.
You're ready to go take care of an infant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I'm good.
If the child could talk, he would say this.
I'm in danger.
Having fun with my sound bites. I, of course, had Sam Adams Oktoberfest. I had 2, and I always enjoy an Oktoberfest. And now that I drank 2, I have 26 more to go in that case that Kevin got me. So.
Sick.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree, but there are plenty of movies that kind of cover it.
Thanks for joining us tonight for episode 170. We hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. We talked all about our favorite go-to Halloween films. If you have something that you would like to let us know about, like something that you are a fan of that we didn't talk about tonight, and you would like us to shout it out on the next episode, you can email us at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all of our social media and podcast links. You can join us on Patreon, or you can even text us your suggestion, your comment, your question, whatever it might be, to 904-867-4466. Don't forget to stop by the Crossroads between Pickled and Fermented next time around for episode 171. That episode is going to be coming out right around Election Day. So we are going to do an episode all about political films. What that means and what that entails, we're not sure about yet, but Mike is super excited about it.
There's certain things I don't talk about in this house. It's politics.
Yeah, I know. I don't talk about politics either. But we're not talking about politics. We're talking about political
movies.
Films. So
Are you going to be able to drink for that one, Mike?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Mike, you'll be back.
I will definitely drink for that one.
I'm thinking the three of us should film our own like campaign ads or something that we can play during the episode.
Calvin and Hobbes for president.
I'm Leo. Bring sexy back 2024. So yes, I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
This has been the Films and Fermentation podcast. And as promised, here is a song that Kevin was talking about earlier tonight called Have You Seen the Ghost of John? To close out our episode. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Have you seen the ghost of John? Long white bones with the rest all gone. Ooh, wouldn't it be chilly with no skin on? Have you seen the ghost of John? Long white bones with the rest of John.
That was a round, guys.
Yeah, I don't know if you're the lyrics, the fact that it was a round, or that it was being sung by children, or all three. So,
that's a new drinking song right here, boys.
Enjoy your Halloween go-to films. We'll see you guys next time around. Bye, everybody.
Bye.